Hello my friends, welcome back to the archives. I have been expecting you. Throughout the recent months, I've been pursuing every single holocron, stone tablet, and lore engravings that we have ever seen on the most powerful Star Wars characters, uncovering characters of such supreme power. All of these characters that you will see before you are so unfathomably powerful. They are widely regarded as some of the most powerful characters across all of the fictional universes. This list excludes godlike entities, as well as characters with circumstantial dependent powers, and characters with far too little exposure such as Soa. It's also only for the Legends continuity, so don't expect beings such as Rey, Kylo Ren, or any beings like that. We will also not be including beings who have had amplification from Force nexuses such as Sarasu Talon, and beings who have circumstantial dependent powers like Caedus Mur, whose powers are often defended and defined via his Mur talisman. But without further ado, let us begin. To kick things off at the number 15 position, we have a legendary Force sensitive. We have Queller. He's quite an obscure character, only appearing as a prominent character in the 1996 novel The New Rebellion, sent 13 years after Return of the Jedi. As a former member of Luke Skywalker's Jedi Praxium named Dolph, he turns to the dark side, adopting the moniker Queller. He commits genocide on the planet of Padir and feeds and gorges himself on the death energies of millions, possibly even further, growing stronger at a faster rate than even Emperor Palpatine himself in the early days, according to Mara Jade Skywalker. She further has the audacity to note that his power was greater than anyone she has met since Palpatine in the early days, which would include the earliest version of Darth Vader and the Dark Jedi Master Juris Sabaoth. Leia Solo also accedes to these claims, as she agrees that she has never felt a Force user like Queller in years, and Luke agrees that at the time, Queller is by far the most dominating Force user that he has ever trained. The number 14 spot hosts Darish Vol, the Grand Lord of the Lost Tribe of the Sith from the Fate of the Jedi novel series set 30 years after Return of the Jedi. Vol stakes his claim as Grand Lord of the Lost Tribe of the Sith, being head and shoulders above even the High Lords and Sarasu Talon before he was indulged in the pool of knowledge. So Darish Vol was capable in a dreamscape of fighting Abeloth, a 100,000-year-old corrupted Force abomination, managing to resist her psychological advances while using a devastating knife to exploit her emotional vulnerability and desire. However, Abeloth ultimately nearly killed him in the encounter. After the encounter, Abeloth states, quote, "The Vol actually has much the power of Luke Skywalker when he's the Grand Master himself." The number 13 spot, we have the pioneer of the golden age of the Sith Empire, Marka Ragnos, the ancient Sith-human hybrid who was a descendant of the original Dark Jedi. Noted as one of the most formidable Force users across all of Jedi and Sith history, Marka Ragnos was capable of imposing his will up until his last days, where he died of natural causes, something barely any other Sith have managed to do. Even during his own funeral, he appeared as an apparition to Naga Sadow and Ludo Kresh, claiming that he would absolutely crush Sadow, who was the more powerful of the two, in an altercation if necessary. Ragnos continues to live on today and inhabited the body of Tavian Aximus and fought Jedi Knight Jaden Korr to a near stalemate, despite having had the past 5 millennia unincorporated without a physical form, adapting rather quickly and proving his immense power over the Force. The number 12 spot sits Mace Windu. Like Revan and other beings, Mace Windu is one of the few Jedi who can use the dark side without succumbing to it. More explicitly, he develops and masters the modern variation of the most dangerous and lethal lightsaber form ever invented, the Pard, which allows him to, in tandem with his Shatterpoint ability, stalemate and with further amplification from Anakin Skywalker's Shatterpoint, defeat Darth Sidious himself in a lightsaber duel. However, Windu was also quite masterful without a lightsaber, being able to plow down armies of B-2 battle droids single-handedly as well as B-1 battle droids, capable of fighting against Palpatine, even resisting his Force lightning with his lightsaber, and was considered by many, including a multitude of the Jedi High Council, to be the most powerful Jedi in the Order, next to Yoda, with some even saying he surpassed Yoda until the rise of the prodigy Anakin Skywalker. At the number 11 spot, we have the firstborn son of Leia and Han Solo, Darth Caedus, formerly known as Jacen Solo. As a Jedi under Luke Skywalker's Jedi Order, Jacen fights and wars in the Yuzong Vong War, being captured and tortured in the embrace of pain by the fallen Sith acolyte Vergir. Jason emerges virtually immune to pain, far stronger than before, and has a 5-year escapade into unknown space, mastering countless esoteric powers, including anti-flow walking, allowing him to perceive and travel into various moments in history. He was able to fight and deal multiple wounds to Grandmaster Luke Skywalker in a lightsaber altercation, and he was even capable of standing up against his own twin sister Jaina Solo while she was empowered by Luke Skywalker himself. At the number 10 spot, we have Darth Plagueis, one of the very few people who Palpatine himself genuinely fears. Apprentice to Darth Tenebrous, Plagueis comes to inherit the collective knowledge garnered by the line of Sith Lords in the Baneite era, descended from Darth Bane over 1,000 years prior. Plagueis is exceptionally powerful, being the political mastermind that organizes the Separatists and responsible for the rise of the Galactic Empire and Palpatine's ascent to Supreme Chancellorship, manipulating the galaxy, although Plagueis also holds tremendous mastery over the Force. So deep he immerses himself in the Force's secrets, he comes to learn how to manipulate and curb and control the midichlorians, the building blocks of the Force itself, to his own ends. Using this, he is capable to fertilize a female egg without the need of sexual intercourse, was capable of using the Force to resurrect Darth Venomous while also killing him until his lungs gave way, and was even able to de-age himself and cease aging entirely, appearing to Palpatine 50 years after he'd first met him as looking the exact same as when he had first met him 50 years ago. However, before he can ascend to total godhood on the cusp of the secret to immortality, he is murdered in his sleep by his apprentice. The number 9 position plays host to Darth Revan, the prodigal knight of the Old Republic. Revan's midichlorian count eclipses most beings in the Old Republic era, with Revan estimated being one of the most powerful Force users alive. Revan was capable of wrenching Dark Councilors to ash with his Force lightning and Force storms, was capable of resisting and repelling Darth Nihilus' Force energy despite not being a Sith acolyte, was capable of overthrowing and defeating Darth Malak on the Starforge despite being much more powerful, was capable of contending with Emperor Vitiate himself for a short amount of time, and even was capable of fighting against the galaxy's greatest heroes, and required all of them, including Theron Shan, Satele Shan, Darth Maul, and the Outlander, in order to take him down for good. In the end, Revan requires so much power, he was capable of banishing Tenebrae to the Void of Chaos, along with many other beings. Revan's combat record is supported. He has defeated Mandalores, slaughtered armies of Dark Jedi in the Jedi Temples on Korriban, and was even capable of resisting the temptation of Emperor Vitiate himself, one of the most dominating Force users of all time, and managed to resist his advances until he was ultimately prevailed. The number 8 spot belongs to Anakin Skywalker. Anakin possesses over a dozen feats, claiming him as perhaps the most powerful Jedi alive in the High Republic era, or the Order's entire history, including from Sayas 18, Aegon Kolar, Mace Windu, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Palpatine, sourcebooks, Yoda, and Lucasfilm officials. Anakin's praise is supported by his plethora and myriad of feats, such as blocking a Jedi Temple-destroying super laser with only his lightsaber, killing Mace Windu in the Lucasfilm-approved Revenge of the Sith game adaptation, single-handedly, fighting against Obi-Wan Kenobi while conflicted, and even as Darth Vader, he inherits this, resisting the power of Darth Sidious's Force lightning after the time skip, contending with Luke Skywalker, the most powerful Jedi in history up until that point, and even was capable of using the Force in such conventional ways. He was capable of plowing through armies of beings, killing Jedi and less experienced beings with just a few strikes. He was also capable of utterly dominating the more powerful clone of Starkiller, who was ranked 15th on this list, purely with the Force and with a lightsaber, and only lost due to being off-guarded and exposed to Force lightning. At number 7, there is Yoda, the Avatar of Light, Supreme Master of the Jedi Order, the fiercest, the most implacable, and the most devastatingly powerful foe the darkness had ever known, as the Revenge of the Sith novelization puts it. Indeed, Yoda has repeatedly been decorated and shown to be one of the most powerful Force users up until his time. With the Force, he has caused multiple Separatist droid characters simultaneously to clash into one another, lifted armies of droidekas at once, and killed and destroyed TIE fighters in seconds, was capable of contending with Darth Sidious, disarming him in a lightsaber altercation, and managed to contain his immensely destructive force lightning that was capable of decimating and incinerating his opponents instantly. Yoda was capable of also using telekinesis to levitate a mountain-sized structure in midair, and was regarded by Mace Windu as more powerful than him in both peace and in war, and was regarded by Palpatine as, alongside Plagueis, one of the only beings in the history of the Star Wars galaxy that he genuinely feared could be a threat to his power. The number 6 spot belongs to Irek Ismarin, also known as Lord Nyax. Like Queller, Ismarin is a little-known character, prominently only appearing in the 2002 novel The New Jedi Order, Enemy Lines 2, Rebel Stand. Irek Ismarin is a prodigy with much greater abilities than his age would suggest, being able to tap into an innermost force nexus in the heart of the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, was capable of using his AI-controlled and manipulated lightsabers as well as various cybernetic enhancements. Nyax stands over 3 meters tall with 8 lightsabers emitting from his heavy armor, more a hulking beast than a man. He becomes so powerful he was able to absolutely wage an apocalyptic one-sided battle against Luke Skywalker and other Jedi, with Nyax proving even more powerful than Luke in the Force at the time. After manipulating the Force Nexus in the bowels of the Jedi Temple, Nyax threatens to crack the planet Coruscant in two, leaking so much dark side energy and power that he starts to turn the surroundings around him into ash. Nyax is only stopped through deception via Luke and Yuzong Vong orbital bombardment, and even then, he survives to fight another day, escaping from the pit that he had created. Kicking off the top 5, we have Darth Krayt, the last great Sith Lord of the Legends timeline. Darth Krayt's praise is supported by his feats, being able to beat the ex-Jedi Aurra Sing in a lightsaber duel, despite only being a Padawan, being capable of using Force Lightning to encircle his opponents without harming them, instantly vaporizing his opponents as well as hordes of Rakghouls, resisting the Force Lightning of Kana Smur, one of the founding Sith Lords who was stated to be more powerful than even Darth Sidious, was capable of using the Force to resurrect himself using Dark Transfer, freeing himself of his Yuzong Vong implants, resisting Yuzong Vong implants for over a century, despite them being insanely deadly to the average being and taking normally just a few years in order for them to grow fully. Darth Krayt returns from the dead, more powerful than ever, with the ability to perceive shadow points more fluently than even Mace Windu, pouring tremendous amounts of Force energy into them. He is capable of resurrecting beings like Caedus Skywalker back from the dead, until he is permanently vanquished and his corpse is thrown into the sun by Caedus Skywalker. The number 4 spot, we have the Lord of Hunger himself, Darth Nihilus. Darth Nihilus had the potential to become one of the most powerful Force users the galaxy had ever seen via his Force Drain ability. With the Force, he has invaded his master Krayt's cells and killed the midichlorians, literally stirring inside her. Was capable of using the Force in such a conventional way, he was regarded by the Jedi exile Mitra Surik as a wound in the Force, with a command of the Force that surpasses nearly everyone she has ever met. Was regarded by Krayt and Traya as a galactic threat capable of dominating and subjugating the entire galaxy, draining countless planets including Qatar, where over 150 members of the Jedi were gathered, using just the Force and giving their powers to him. Nihilus was also capable of using the Force to drain the Jedi exile Mitra Surik, although she did end up killing him. Even in death, Nihilus invoked such a powerful surge of dark side energy, he was capable of exploding the ship he was on, the Ravager. And still, he was able to bind his spirit to his mask and robes, and even now, he lives on as a disembodied husk of what he once was in the tombs of the Dark Lords on Korriban. The first name in the top 3 goes to the reborn Emperor Palpatine from the Dark Empire comics trilogy. Like in Disney canon, Palpatine also resurrects himself in the Legends continuity, more powerful than ever. Since his defeat on Endor, he has mastered the ability to generate Force Storms, enormous templates and hyperspace wormholes that have the ability to rip apart the very fabric of space and time, have the ability to consume fleets, planets, and over time, the galaxy itself. Palpatine has repeatedly been decorated as the most powerful Sith Lord and Darkseid to have ever lived, regarded by Darth Plagueis, who is ranked 10th on this list, as existing as a being of pure energy, and often regarded by many, including Master Yoda, as the most powerful avatar of the darkness had ever seen. Palpatine was able to contend with Yoda and Mace Windu in a lightsaber duel, was able to defeat Luke Skywalker while he's the Grand Master of the Jedi in a lightsaber altercation, and only barely lost their second encounter. It's capable of generating Force Lightning that can vaporize anyone it touches on one mere contact, and was capable of even having all of the Jedi that have ever existed in the history of the Order, having to restrain him with the help of Brand, dragging him down into the depths of the void of chaos for eternity, so that he would never return. And even before his resurrection in Dark Empire, Palpatine has repeatedly been confirmed and stated to be the most powerful Sith Lord to have ever existed, with feats such as exerting his psychological control over the entire galactic empire, slicing down 3 highly decorated Jedi Masters, Aegon Kolar, Saestin, and the formidable Kit Fisto, in seconds, draining the life force of 20 billion people on the planet Bliss slowly, being able to dominate Darth Vader, resurrecting himself after learning the fabled art of essence transfer, and gaining the entire knowledge of the line of Sith Lords and culminating with him. Palpatine is only stopped in the end via every single Jedi, as well as Luke Skywalker, Anakin Solo, and Leia Solo, united in the Force to absolute oneness in order to contain the spirit in the netherworld of the Force, so that it would never return. And even then, there is all the possibility that he could return to fight another day. The number 2 spot hosts Valkorion, the immortal Emperor of the Cool, also known as Tenebrae, Vitiate, and the Sith Emperor. This paranormal dark side entity and abomination is born over 5,000 years before the events of the original trilogy, and holds dominion as the most powerful Force user in history for almost 5,000 years. He extends his lifespan with a ritual by consuming 2 planets of Force energy, his home planet Nathema, including 8,000 fellow Sith Lords, binding their will to his and dominating their minds, draining their life essences and making his spirit immortal. He was capable of mastering the art of essence transfer, dominating the minds of both Revan and Malak, some of the Order's finest warriors, resisting Revan funneling both sides of the Force within him at once and releasing it in a beam of pure energy with barely a scratch. Vitiate's Force Lightning has the ability as an aftershock to tear apart entire fleets of ships, holding together and having such a power that he terrified Arkan, Valen, and Thexan, his children. It was so powerful he was regarded as the greatest extension of the dark side that had ever existed. Was stated by Lord Scourge as being more powerful than Revan, incurred enough fear that even in death, when Revan attempted to revive Vitiate, everyone in the galaxy, including its greatest heroes, attempted to stop him in fear that they would not be able to repel his power. Was capable of utilizing Red Force Lightning to overpower the Outlander, Lord Scourge, Revan, and his greatest adversaries of the past, and even in the end was only able to be defeated after every single person, including the billions of people that he had drained on both Zyos and Nathema. He was capable of even exerting his will over the entire Eternal Empire Armada, keeping it together throughout the years. He manipulated affairs for over 1,500 years, existing as an entity of pure dark-side malevolence. Tenebrae deserves the number 2 spot more than any other dark-side wielder, as the purest extension the dark side has ever had. And finally, the most formidable being in all of Star Wars was Jedi Grandmaster Luke Skywalker. In Legends, Luke's praise and Jedi aura flourishes. With the Force, he manages to defeat Darth Sidious, who is ranked number 3 on this list, in a lightsaber duel. Telekinetically pins effortlessly his nephew Darth Caedus, who is ranked number 11th, to the chair seemingly without effort. Moves miniature artificial black holes, keeps open a black hole using the Force, exert his psychological will over entire fleets near effortlessly, was capable of contending with Abeloth nearly single-handedly alongside Darth Krayt, and further banishing Abeloth to the void of chaos afterwards. Luke Skywalker was able to live for well over a century, using his immense power in the Force to sustain his life. Regarded as the only being in the galaxy that could challenge Darth Krayt's rule, Luke Skywalker's lightsaber skills were such he was stated to be using 1,000 lightsabers simultaneously in this peak of power, and was regarded in the Fate of the Jedi novel series as being so powerful he had the capacity to defeat Abeloth, the 100,000-year-old Force-corrupted eldritch abomination, managing to resist her advances while using his immense power in the Force to utterly dominate her. And that brings us to the end of this video. Of course, we didn't mention Revan's teleportation powers, Yoda reportedly being able to harness Force lightning in his exile, Luke Skywalker plowing through armies of Yuzong Vong warriors, and Palpatine resisting Starkiller's suicide Force blast. This list is but a taste of the pure powers and abilities of these characters, and there exists a myriad of unique and other feats that I heavily implore that you explore. If you desire to know more, subscribe to the channel and consider joining us over on my Facebook page. There will be a link in the description. Without further ado, this is where we part way, my acolytes, my students, my friends. If you're a long time term of this channel, you know that you have been expecting this video for a long time and have been culminating in this. This video has taken me a multitude of months, and over the course of 100,000 words, I have managed to assemble the Ultimate Lore video. I hope you agree. If you don't, I completely understand. With that out of the way, farewell my acolytes. Fear the dragon of the Sith, and kneel before the dragon of Zakul.